We're going to do some hair work here. I'm going to add some highlights to her hair. So we're going to pull up our curves, darken it, inverse it. Apple eye inverses the curve. Get our brush and just brush in some of these lowlights. Adds a little bit more dimension to the hair. Just darkening the dark areas a little bit, not too much, so we can see what it's doing. And we're going to do another one for the highlights. So we'll make a lightened curve and then inverse it again. Just brush in over these areas that are already a little bit lighter. It's going to add shine to the hair. Just add a little bit of dimension to it. We can make a new group, hair highlights. Now when we turn that on and off, we can see we've just added a little bit more depth to her hair. She's got a bit of a messy patch here. I'm going to have to clean that up just a little bit. Doesn't need to be totally perfect because, you know, our hand's in her hair here, so we want it to look somewhat natural, like she's just pushed her hair up, but we also want it to look smooth and nice. So we're going to clean up some of these loose hairs. Another thing you can do is you can brush over those hairs with the color that's behind it so that the hair is still there. We haven't moved the hair, we're just matching it to the color behind it so that it doesn't look so sharp. That's one way you can get rid of them quickly if you don't have the time to actually go in and retouch them all out. You just darken it, blend it in a little bit. Just takes the focus off of it so that it looks like it's matching the hair behind it. Then you can match the color. Just take the color sample and then set your brush to color and brush over it. Most of the time though, you're just going to have to actually retouch it out. We're just going to darken it with the burn and dodge tool here. And then we're going to draw over it. We're going to add some hairs. Make it look like a fluid section. Get rid of these stray hairs here. We want our hair to look really good, especially near this part here. You can try using the healing brush. Sometimes, you know, you got to experiment a little, see what's going to happen. Each image is going to have its own quirks. So try a few different options, see what works. You can always go back in your history state. You can always set your history brush back. You know, that's why we set those preferences that way. So that way if you don't like the way that something's come out, you just change it, go back to the way it was. It's good to experiment. We're just going to add some hair, brush it in the way we did with the brows. Fill it up a little, make her hair look a little bit fuller. I've selected one of the highlight colors. She's got a really nice golden color here. We want to emphasize that. Gonna fill in that dark patch just a little bit. Let's brush over the area with a light brush. Remember to change your sample often when you're doing hair like this. If you have the same color too often, it's going to look fake. So just keep changing it. Take new samples. Take your highlight sample, your low light sample, mix it up. Just brush it in. You're going to want to change your opacity too, depending on the image, depending on the kind of hair. Generally, as a rule, try and keep it between 10% and maybe 40%. But, you know, use your best judgment because it changes image to image. I'm just going to fill this area in here. I think I might want to fill that, lighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to brush that in with the same color that's next to it. You can also use the clones tool and really sample the area that's next to it if you want to do it that way. I like brushing the hair in. Sometimes you got to do a combination. Take a sample of the area that's next to it and brush that in. Now see here, my color's shifting because I'm just brushing it on top. I'm going to have to fix that by taking the color sample and just brushing it over. Setting it to color. Just brushing it over. Make it blend flawlessly. We're just filling in that area now and making our hair look a little bit fuller. I'm going to match that color exactly. We want to keep that golden color. We don't want it to start looking cyan. Some of these hairs that jump out at you, just go ahead and darken them, make it look really smooth. Everybody likes smooth hair. So we'll just smooth that out. Yeah, she's starting to look really nice now. This made it a little bit more glamorous. It doesn't jump out at you as I've been retouched. It just looks nice. It just has a nice look to it. Soft, with texture, nicer color, more balanced. Maybe I might do a few more highlights here. Make her arm match her face a little bit more. She had really pale makeup on, even though she was fairly tan, so we're going to just blend that in. Try and make her skin look like it's one tone. Do a few more color adjustments. After a while of looking at it, you're going to want to tweak it a little bit. That's why I like to start with color adjustments and go from there. So now we're looking pretty good. Might want to fidget with it a little bit more. And you're going to take things to a certain level and then you're going to want to just keep going. So now we're zoomed out again, looking at the whole image, making adjustments so that the whole image is balanced. I want it to look like all the areas go together. So we're just finalizing the image, making sure it all works together, making sure it looks nice. I think I'm going to just reshape the top of her head here a little bit. So we go back into Liquify. General rule in Liquify, a good idea is to use the size of the brush. The size of the brush that you're using should be about the size of the area that you want to change. So if you're reshaping, like this hair here, I'm going to get a brush that is basically the size of that area. Just a little bit rounder, nice and soft. I'm going to just darken this light hair here. And now she's looking pretty good. See here, I'm using the clone stamp to blend that hair and match it. Might just go over this area a little bit more. Just finalizing things, tweaking them a little bit. Some of these color shifts are really minor. But when something goes to press, those minor color shifts are going to really stand out. Your eye will get used to seeing these colors. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to her hair. Just make it really nice and golden. So we're just brushing it into the highlight area. Selective color, I'm just taking out a little bit. Just playing with it a little, experimenting, seeing what I can get. It's going to depend on where the image was shot, what kind of light was available, colors were in the room. All that stuff's going to affect it, so every image is going to be different. The color adjustments are going to be different for every image, so it's a good idea to just experiment. Get a feel for it, see what you like. Just going to brush in some of those more extreme highlights into the light areas of her hair to make it really glow. Vibrant color here. So we can see it's just pulled out a little bit of the magenta. If we don't like it, we can change it. That's why you work with adjustment layers. Instead of doing the color changes to the actual file layer, we're doing them on top, so you can change them, you can paint them in, you can change the adjustment. You have way more control this way. You can shift things around in your palette. If you've got things looking where you're happy with, we'll just take a final look at our before and after.